Everyone, 1 month ago, I asked you, what is the best Warframe in the game? And everyone answered. So let's go over some of the top results based on upvotes. First and foremost is the obvious, most cop-out answer, but it is the true answer, and that is your main. Your favorite Warframe, the one that you enjoy playing the most, is the best Warframe. I know, it is a little bit of a cop-out because I was asking for everyone's individual best Warframe in their opinion, but it's not wrong, but you just didn't tell me your main Warframe or your best Warframe, so come on, what's your best one? For me, I would definitely say Protea. She is my favorite, and she has actually been my favorite since her base release of Protea Base, and now it's been 4 years, so she is Protea Prime. If you don't know about Protea, you can get her once you start farming through the Granum Void questline and all that, once you get the Zorus. She has really interesting abilities. Her first one either gives her shield or it's AoE slash. Second ability is a turret that fires heat shots at enemies and grows more powerful with each shot. Third ability straight out shoots up health orbs, energy, and ammo packs. And her fourth ability is kind of like a rewind time and get out of jail free card, where you legitimately go back in time from whence you first used the ability. She's been a big favorite of mine ever since her release, just because I like her kit and it seems to be very strong, both with decent enough damage and survivability. This is my general build that I am using on her right now, you know, good old prime sure-footed so I don't get slapped around sometimes. Temporal erosion, she does have a couple augments with a repair dispensary and temporal artillery. I prefer temporal erosion to strip armors off the enemy and get that a little bit more damage out there. But this is my generalized, strong, but no hard into one stat style of build, which is what I usually prefer. I just spam out a lot of Protea abilities, so I have a little bit of everything. I don't have too much strength, but usually that builds up over mission with Mold Augmented, and she's just always been a huge favorite of mine, okay? So that's why we're probably going to spend the most time going over her. The generals of her abilities are simple, and it works really well with a companion. See all these Grineered armored enemies? You can throw up 3 turrets at once, and they very quickly strip them of armor and knock them down. With the added bonus of having a strong companion, they're kind of godly, okay? Kind of godly. And now my fourth ability activated, so now I'm back in time. But you'll see it doesn't reduce armor as much because of I don't have my fourth ability on. Heat'll still reduce their armor though. So no matter how you look at it, she has a pretty good way of destroying armor. My companion also yeets armor off. But it's really good. She is so strong, and that's not even using her like first ability, which is not going to be the strongest ability, but if you look at it, it's still going to slash a lot of their health off. And with my added companion damage and spread status, they just kind of all die. So she is a really strong frame, and I've always been a huge fan of her ever since her release. So I would definitely recommend everyone run the Granum Voids if you can, run that quest, pick up the Zorus, and get Protea one way or another, because she's definitely a great Warframe. The next Warframe we have up is Dante. It's also the Warframe that I brought up in the video, the short. I think Dante is one of overall the best Warframes in the game for general gameplay and use. And he has a very interesting kit. Status chances increase by 50% on fully scanned targets in your codex, so a really unique, weird passive. But more importantly, first ability is a book with some unique radiation damage, and you can actually build it up to do an insane amount of damage. Tomes are really strong. Second ability just straight up gives you overguard. Third ability does slash damage to enemies, but your second and your third ability chain into 4 separate abilities into your fourth ability. I know, it's weird. So the combos are 2-2-4, 2-3-4, 3-3-4, or 3-2-4, and it does matter. You have Final Verse. 2 light verses, which is a lot of overguard, okay. And then you have Tragedy, which is huge damage multiplier, which pops the enemy's stats. So you hit your 3-3-4, and it's a huge damage. For the previous one, you hit 2-2-4, and it's huge overguard, okay? This one you hit 2-3 and you get a Word Warden, which just increases damage around and copies your attack. So you get like a little book turret. Really awesome. And your final one, which is 3-2-4, gets an really strong birds that fly around, give damage to enemies via status damage increase, vulnerability, and stuff like that. Massive boost. So this is why I think Dante is just overall one of the strongest frames in the game. There's a bajillion different ways you can build him. I throw on Equilibrium just so that I can collect more health/energy orbs, but I don't think really necessarily need it. But I have lower efficiency, so it's kind of what I felt like doing. I'm always all over the place. I don't build for needed most survivability. You definitely do not need Prime Sure-Footed on there, but I just have it on because I wasn't using my Overguard for a little bit because I was messing around with stuff. But I would definitely recommend you can probably swap that out for one of the auras that give range or strength. Other than that, just a generalized high strength, some range and duration build. You could go more in whatever direction. Precision Intensify just makes sense because your fourth ability is your main ability on Dante, and he's such a good Warframe. I just love Dante overall. Even with my like goofy Overguard build, you don't need Overguard, okay? Trust me. I just have that on for when I forget to do shields and I am kind of a dummy. It's just because of that. See, you can hit 3-3-4. And all of that status almost completely kills the enemies. The idea behind it, though, is it's supposed to pop the statuses that are already on the enemies, right? So let's say if you have teammates or your companion has a lot of heat or toxin on an enemy, it does a lot more damage. So it's high damage, but it won't necessarily kill all the enemies just hitting the combo. You might need to prime it with a good secondary or something like that. But then you have your other abilities, 2-2-4. Full Overguard. Boom. Look at that Overguard. I have 2-3-4, and then I get my little companion book right there. So, not bad. And now when I pull out my book, I think it like shoots at the enemies with me or something. Yay! It's kind of weird to look at. There we go. Look at that. Look at that book. And that's my Noctua. Okay. Anyways, last but not least, let's hit our... is it 3-2-4 for our little Peregrims? And then we get the little owly dudes. I think they're owls. Peregrims? Is that Peregrine owl? Yep, anyways. They just fly around and everything gets killed. And that's with all just the Dante spreading and me using my Batacore here. If I throw on, let's say, my Okacore, everything's already dead. Yeah, see, my 3-3-4 kills almost everything. And then there's just like little remnant enemies to pick up afterwards. And then you can hit them again and then they're dead. So the overall usage of Dante, not really mad. Either way, everybody, that's Dante. Let's go over the next Warframe. Now, this one's a 3-fer technically. Since this was one of the biggest upvoted comments, we'll next be going over Revenant, Kullervo, and Trinity, starting off with Revenant. Everyone's probably aware of why Revenant's so insane, and it's mainly on Mesmer Skin. This is just straight up invincibility with 21 stacks that stuns enemies. Revenant has other abilities like Enthrall, where you straight up take kind of control of enemies. You mind control them essentially, and you turn them on your side. They can infect enemies like little zombies, and that's pretty cool. Your third ability is Reeve. It heals you, but more importantly, it steals a ton of health from enemies you go through, and I think it does more if they're enthralled, so it essentially kills all the enthralled enemies you go through. So, strong ability. And then your fourth ability, which I believe also does more damage to enthralled people, and if you kill thralls, leaves overshield pickups. Yeah, it's something weird like that. This is an ability where you can go around, you can hold fire boost to damage increase it, and it's just a legitimate toggleable AoE, and it's pretty cool. So let's take a quick look at Revenant, okay? Because he's a very simple Warframe. I just have ability strength shards and 1 cast speed on him. With that, this is my build. Since Revenant is a very simple Warframe, I just have full strength essentially. Peculiar Audience is a meme aura mod, so feel free to swap that out with anything else, whether that be more range or strength or whatever. But this is what I prefer to build on my Revenant: strength just for Mesmer Skin and everything else. And I do also have Thrall packed on to gain more damage with all my enthralled enemies if I ever remember to or bother enthralling a ton of enemies. And, oh wait, no, I do also have Mesmer Shield on, because you get more Mesmer skin. So there's a lot of ways you can build Revenant, but that's just what I have going there. So if you see here, you can start enthralling a ton of enemies, and on the minimap in the top left, they're now blue. They're on your side. Cool. Awesome. Let me grab a bunch of energy. And then you can reave through the enemies, and all of the thralls are dead because the reave kills the thralled enemies. And they leave little enthralled AoE packs on the ground, and like little AoEs, so now you see all the stuff everywhere. Yeah, okay. Anyways, that's the like general kit. If you look at Mesmer skin, this is the ability. I want to toggle off pause AI. And they can all attack me, but I just won't take damage, because I'm invincible. Like, they're hitting me a little bit, but the thrall packs in the bottom right are slowly going down. They're just trying to kill my pet, essentially, because my pet's killing them. And it's funny. But you don't have to worry. I also have a ton of Overguard, though, to be fair, so it's slightly cheatsy. I'm like, what if I swap out? No, it doesn't work. Oh, well. Interesting. The Simulacrum's a little weird like that, because it holds up. I'm just waiting for them to, there we go, destroy my Overguard. No, but Mesmer Skin was blocking the damage outside of the Overguard, so that's why my Overguard wasn't going down. So yeah, you're essentially just an invincible tank. That's why this is such a good Warframe. You won't get knocked down, you'll just kind of run around, so Revenant is the #1 Warframe you want to play if you are just kind of scared of dying, if you don't know how to build defensively, and if you just want to shoot at the enemies. And then if you're bored, your 4th ability is the Ballerina one. Hold for more damage and drain. And you can actually do a really strong damage build around just doing this as an AoE attack. Because as you can see, the damage isn't actually half bad. It's not the best, but it's not half bad. So you can do a goofy little build at lower levels around that, right? Yeah. Either way, everybody, that right there is Revenant. The next Warframe up on the list is your boy Kullervo. Kullervo is an insanely good, strong damage frame, and I will agree with this. He is really good for melee damage. That is his main prerogative for high damage, so I'll swap off my Venato for something more appropriate. Let's go with the Hate Incarnate, because it's a really cool weapon. Kullervo is a melee Warframe. His first ability teleports him to the enemy, hits them, and does an attack and buff for 553% melee critical chance. 200 by default, but you get the idea. So he's a melee damage frame. The passive, heavy attack efficiency, heavy attack wind-up speed on all melees, so you get the idea. The second ability is just AoE daggers that give him Overguard. If it doesn't hit an enemy, it stabs them and hurts them a little bit. I have the Augment mod on, so it's essentially just AoE daggers, and it's really good. Really good Overguard. Third ability is just straight up, it chains the damage to all the enemies. So let's say you stab one enemy, it'll hit them all, baby. Chain damage. And your fourth ability, Storm of Ukko, while it's all good, it could be stronger, but it's not like his main ability, if you think about it. It's straight up daggers, so slash damage. If we take a look at my build, this is what I have going on for Kullervo. I'm probably just going to wait for Kullervo Prime, but I don't have any Exilis on there. You can do a range or strength Exilis mod, however you want to do, right? Or a mod. You can change that around if you don't want to have like corrosive, but everything works well. Since he's a Overguard kind of health tank, I throw on adaptation. I don't bother with rolling guard because you don't really need it on this type of Warframe. And to be fair, since you're essentially always Overguard gating, you might not fully need adaptation, but I still like to have it. And then just kind of damage and AoE. There's my Augment mod. He does have other augments, Wrath of Ukko, where it moves it around, but I don't really love that one, so not my favorite. We have Molt Augmented, and I also have Arcane Bellicose, because I just want to do more damage and have more strength, so I love Kullervo. That's my general build. You can always do a lot of other builds, so just keep that in mind. There is no one way to build anything. You can always do whatever you feel like. So here, if we just do Collective Curse, I throw down my fourth ability. You just see all of the damages just stack up. But that's what I was saying, like, Slash isn't the strongest on his fourth ability, but it is still really good. The Slash attack also builds up your melee combo, so you'll notice that in the bottom right. My fourth ability was building up my melee combo. So if I throw that down again, huge AoE. If I throw down Grineer enemies, Look at that. Wow, so good. It's more like this. This is gonna, yeah, instantly kill them once you throw down that third ability, so they share damage. I don't think that all the numbers can possibly even pop out. But if I do a 3 into a 1, you just all die because you have insane damage. If I don't want to show off one-shotting everyone, 2 million with that first ability. And now since you have insane red crits, you're going to do all the damage. Right? Like, look at that. The tens of millions you're going to easily hit as Kullervo. If you ever want to quickly hit damage cap, Kullervo is the go-to. He's just such a nice, simple Warframe to hit high damage cap type melee. So if you do a full damage cap melee combo build, honestly, you can probably pretty easily hit damage cap with all the buffs you can hit in Warframe. So either way, that's why Kullervo's so good. And that wasn't even showing off how nice his Overguard is. It's just AoE with the way I have it. If you don't have the augment mod, you just have to recast your second ability once in a while. But the way I have it is it's AoE daggers that constantly give me Overguard. And now I'm maxed out on my Overguard. But yeah, you hit your third ability, now they're all dead because they share all that damage they share between the companion spreading it, so it's just so much damage. Good stuff, companion, good stuff. That is Kullervo. The next Warframe we have up, everybody, is Trinity. And I'm not gonna lie, I am not a Trinity player because a lot of people just don't care to play support type Warframes these days because they'll just kill everything anyways. And support has been taken over with all of the mods and arcanes and the gear wheel that you don't actually desperately need a support Warframe. So let's quickly talk about Trinity, okay? And you can judge her as you will. I don't have any sort of Archon shards on her, but hey, your first ability is Well of Life. Hits an enemy and it's essential AoE healing. So not bad, not bad. Also lifesteal. Oh, if allies die, enemies in the Well of Life die in their stead. So she is support healing frame and defense frame, and that's just her first ability, okay? Allies in affinity range gain 50% Trinity's max energy as health, and that is her passive, so very cool. Her second ability, Energy Vampire, you essentially just mark an enemy, and enemies will gain energy over time. So you get the idea. She's like easy mode, marks enemies to just gain buffs. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Like, look at that. Third ability is Link, which is a defensive one. Any damage taken while Link is active will be channeled to nearby enemies, so it's a really good damage redirection, damage reduction, DR type of ability. So very good defenses. And it's just essentially if you have this on, you're not really going to die. Because I think it also spreads it between however many people are linked. So if you have 4 enemies affected, it spreads it 4 ways, and you just take almost no damage. And then your fourth ability, Blessing, which is, guess what? Damage, actual damage reduction. So you have flat damage reduction and you have damage redirection. Combo that together, you're invincible, right? So that's kind of why she's one of those insane Warframes. Have a little bit more strength, because my build on her is not great. Have a little bit more strength and your damage reduction is essentially maxed out here, right? As you can see, I don't really play her. I haven't jumped on her in a long time, and I just kind of have not the ideal build, kind of a goofy build, and I would recommend swapping it around to have, in general, probably more strength. You definitely want more strength. Maybe a little bit of range, and having general good duration is nice, so I would probably keep having a good amount of duration. But you do want to make sure your damage reduction's maxed out at 75%. Sadly, Blessing I don't think goes to 90%. You want to make sure, there we go, we have 5 enemies affected with Link. Energy Vampire and heals are really good. So, yay. I want to actually take off my companion on this one, just because my companion might ruin things. But I'll show you how she generally works. We'll take off the pause enemy AI, just so that you can see the enemy damage output against me, and actually what that's going to look like. So if we do that, we instantly do this, and now we're invincible. You may have noticed I didn't put on Energy Vampire, but now that I have, he just pulses and gives energy. So I'm essentially invincible, and nobody can kill me. I'm taking damage, and it's going to my Overguard, and that's cool and all. And I'm just kind of waiting around for my overguard to go down. But you can continually Well of Life people. You can make other people energy vampires. And now that it's gone to my shield, because overguard's not properly affected, now you're really seeing how low that is. So what people like to do is they like to do like EV Trinity, energy vampire Trinity, right? You just constantly do that, you have some shield, and you'll never die. And that's how Trinity works. And you can also do, I think, more AoE damage generalized type builds with some of her other augment mods. So let me see what we're rolling with on some of these augment mods, right? Reduces armor rating by 60% on enemies targeted by Link. Meh. Gain primary and secondary crit chance for 30 seconds for each percent you heal on allies up to 350%. Pretty insane. On death, marked enemies drop health orbs with chance to drop energy orbs. Yeah, okay, so... Energy Leech, excess energy replenish shields by, and then when you max that out, it'll obviously be pretty insane. You go there, boom, and that's Energy Vampire EV Trinity. You do have to remember to actually use your abilities though. They were attacking me because I was in there, but hey, once you actually do that, you just restore energy, and then you just never die. And yeah, if you really want, you can throw on like energy mods too, or arcanes, but hey. Yeah, that's Trinity, everybody. She's the #1 support and chill frame, and she'll just never die. So that is that big trifecta of Warframes. Let me know what you think there. And everyone, the last but certainly not least Warframe is Gauss Prime. This is the speedy boy. So Gauss is a fast, speedy frame, and he is essentially built around never moving. Moving generates electrical current, fills Gauss's battery shield, recharge up to 120% faster, while recharge delay is 80% shorter based on battery level. So really fast shield regen, and you'll always want to be moving. First ability, Mock Rush. AoE run, charges battery, and you can tap it. You go really fast, does damage. Second ability, Kinetic Plating. Generate armor plating, converts portion of his absorbed damage into energy, so you can get 100% damage reduction on this. Guess what? You're invincible. Also protects Gauss from being staggered or knocked down, so you do not need primed sure-footed. Damage resistance is relative to battery level, so you do always have to make sure you have a high battery level. That is what he is built around, which is why I said never stop moving. Third ability, Thermal Sunder. You do an AoE damage cold, or you can do an AoE damage heat, and when it does cold and heat together, it explodes into a blast, right? Yay. So you tap it for cold and then hold for heat. Draining battery, inflicting heat, yep. And that's the general damage numbers there. I have thermal transfer on. I think it gives me a little damage boost to my guns. And then fourth ability is Redline. Think of this like a volt speed boost. It is only for Gauss, but it increases your fire rate a lot, attack speed, reload speed, casting speed a ton, and it does a little bit of AoE. And you just have to make sure your battery is built up on Gauss, or else it won't quite work. I don't have like the perfect build by any means, I'm just kind of messing around, but this is currently what I have on my Gauss. Rolling guard purely just in case, because I don't play perfectly. I forget to reapply abilities all the time, so yeah. Thermal Transfer for good elemental bonus damage right there. Naira's Hatred for some health duration. Swap that out as you want because I purely just have that on for the meme. Definitely don't need it, okay? And just some strength and duration. I would mainly recommend strength and duration. You don't need a lot of range, but you can have a little bit of range if you want. But it's up to you, you know? I'm not a huge Gauss player, but he is insane, so it's worth bringing up. So if you want to look at your battery in the bottom right, it's going up as I'm walking. If I tap my first ability, which is Fast Run, it goes up even faster. And now it's at the red line, so I can use my fourth ability at maximum efficiency. You want to use your third ability, that's the AoE on that. You hold it down, and then it's heat. And you can just kind of see the heat versus the cold, so it looks different. Your second ability, Kinetic Plating, is just right there, right? It doesn't show up, I think, in the top right, though. Yeah. So you just need to keep in mind when you actually activate your Kinetic Plating, make sure you have your battery levels high. And then your fourth ability, Redline. This is the big one. So now you have insane attack speed, and then insane fire rate overall. Big boost, and that's all you really need to know. And now you're functionally not gonna die. So if I just do that, I can just run around here and essentially won't die. And since you have insane battery, like life regen, you're not really going to get your energy reduced because all of your stuff just regenerates. So yeah, functionally, you're invincible. You can still see they're doing damage ability, or damage to my, there we go, damage to my shields and stuff. So that's why you want to keep moving, because it goes down as they hit you. But you can always just use Thermal Sunder. You can tap 3 and it increases your battery. Or if you hold 3, right, it does the heat and it uses up some battery. So he's a very simple Warframe where you just go around killing everything. Very strong, fan favorite for sure. And it's understandable why these are some of the Warframes that everyone upvoted and listed as the best Warframes in the game. So hey, I'm very curious what everyone thinks about all of the Warframes listed as some of the best Warframes. Agree, disagree, what are your favorite Warframes? Naturally, there's so many Warframes in the game. As long as you enjoy playing as the Warframe, it's probably a really good Warframe. Jeez, the randomly lag spikes in here. Either way, everyone, let me know what you think. If you want to support the channel, you can always like the video, comment down below, check out all the other social medias, Twitch, you can join the YouTube or Twitch membership. You can use Epic Games creator code Pupsker if you ever buy Warframe or any other games, Fortnite, skins, etc. on the Epic Games Store. It always helps out, so thank you all so much, and I will see you next time. Cheers.